What's going on, guys? Apathettic here with all your tips, recommendations, and everything in between. In today's video, we are discussing the Warlock Exotic that makes your 120 hand cannon feel even more crispy in the Crucible and take your overall gunplay to another level in Destiny 2. Often when choosing Warlock Exotics for PvP, people often gravitate towards Transversive Steps as a top option in most scenarios, with Ophidian Aspects being a close second depending on your playstyle. But what if I told you Transversive Steps aren't the best exotic option for Warlocks any longer? With the rise of 120 RPM handcannons, we've also seen a rise in players using Ophidian Aspects to overcome some of the downsides of 120 RPM handcannons, such as the reload, handling, and swap speed. Furthermore, this also helps players who don't have a shotgun with quick draw and improves the overall feel of snipers that may have lower handling. So I'm going to cover the value that Ophidian Aspects bring to the table, why they are especially good in this season, and if you should be choosing Ophidian Aspects over other Warlock Exotics like Transversive Steps. But before that, I also have a Discord for people looking to team up, discuss builds, or ask questions, so consider joining the Discord using the link below if you're looking to connect with some like-minded Destiny players. With that, let's get into it. Talking about Ophidian Aspects, we have to talk about the exotic perk Cobra Totemic. Weapons ready and reload very quickly, melee range is extended. And so the big feature of this exotic is going to be weapon ready and reload very quickly. And what this does is help overcome a lot of the downsides that some weapons have. Some weapons have very slow handling, some weapons have terrible reload speed, others have slow ADS speed, or if you've ever experienced when you're switching weapons and it just feels like your primary or shotgun comes out very slowly. And this is almost this feeling of you can't do anything, like you're almost stuck, right, as you're waiting for your gun to come out. And that is the definition of a weapon with slow handling, or when you go to ADS and it just feels like it takes forever. You feel like you're working in slow motion with your weapon. These are all the effects of slow handling. And so Ophidian Aspects, with their increased handling boost that they give weapons, will overcome a lot of those things. Now in this season, we have a lot of weapons that have slower handling, a lot of weapons that had higher handling or quick draw, or maybe a combination of snapshot and quick draw when we're talking about snipers, have all been sunset. And so with this current season, Ophidians have really risen to the top because of those benefits I was talking about. Now the other thing that can't be overlooked is the reload speed. The reload speed on these, or the boost you get, is very nice. It's also nice because it can stack with things like handcannon loader, or if you feel like the reload on your handcannon with Ophidian is already very good, you can use a different loader in that mod slot, which is also great. So it gives you a little bit more to play with in terms of what mod slots you want to use, versus if you're not using Ophidian and you're using a handcannon, you're always going to be running handcannon loader no matter what. Now the other thing I think is important to mention here as well is the melee range is extended. So the melee range on this is quite nice. I wouldn't say it's super noticeable. I don't think it's drastically farther as some might say, but again, it does feel more consistent. I feel like my melee with Ophidian Aspects whiffs a lot less. You have a lot less of those scenarios where you go to melee and you just kind of like short stop, or like it doesn't connect at all. I find that happens a lot less with this exotic. Now that could just be confirmation bias, but I think there is something to the fact that the melee range is extended, so it has a higher chance to land at those longer ranges, which may lead it to being more consistent. Overall, with Cobra Totemic, I think the biggest thing to write home about this is how it just increases the overall feel of your weapons. They're going to ADS faster, they're going to reload faster, which is great, especially for 120 RPM handcannons, which we'll talk about in a second, and help with the ADS speed, the swap speed, which even if you have a weapon with quick draw, you have to remember it's also affected by how fast you can stow or put away your weapon. And so having that be boosted with Ophidian Aspects is going to make your quick draw on your shotgun feel even smoother. So when using my fell winners and using those with Ophidian Aspects, you would think it would have almost like this canceling out effect, or I wouldn't notice it, but I can tell you guys for a fact that when running Ophidian Aspects, even with a shotgun with quick draw, it just makes it feel even faster. And I think that's due in part to the fact that when you stow your weapon so much faster, so it allows that quick draw to work a little bit quicker. With that, I would say Ophidians are definitely a great option for boosting the overall feel of your weapons. With that, let's talk a little bit more about why Ophidian Aspects in Season 12, the season we're currently in, are really rising to the top in terms of exotic usage. I feel like I'm seeing a lot more people running Ophidian, a lot more people bringing them up instead of wanting to use Transversive Steps. So I think there's a main reason of why Ophidians are becoming so popular in this season, and a lot of it has to do with a couple of things. And the first thing we have to start with is 120 RPM handcannons. Those I've talked about in some other videos. 120 RPM handcannons have a couple of downsides. They have typically a very slow reload combined with a low magazine size and terrible handling, meaning they're going to swap out slowly. The ADS is not going to feel very good. They just feel very heavy is how I would describe them. And that's where you see Ophidian Aspect, weapons ready and reload very quickly, obviously overcomes immediately a lot of those downsides. So what does this do? This makes your 120 RPM hand cannon have essentially no downsides, versus if you wanted to run a 120 with no downsides, you'd be looking at the Sturm. But a lot of people don't like running the Sturm because of a couple of reasons. They don't like that you can't run Icarus, and they don't like the fact that it takes up an exotic slot, and so they prefer some other options like Steady Hand or True Prophecy. But again, without Ophidian Aspects, you're looking at a very slow handling, a very slow reload speed, and a much smaller magazine size. But when you pair that with Ophidian Aspects, now you can reload a lot quicker, and I recommend you pair that with a hand cannon reloader, because it makes that hand cannon reload so much faster and so much better. And so you really overcome that lower slow reload speed on these 120s, and then having that ADS and stow and swap speed added to these weapons, it just makes your entire loadout feel so much more fluid. You can switch easily between your sniper and your shotgun and go back and forth to your 120, which makes when you go in for those slide shotguns and you switch and hip fire maybe with your 120 to finish off the kill, it makes that feel very fluid and very reactive. You don't feel like there's this delay. You don't feel the slowness that 120s typically have. The other thing I'll say that makes Ophidian Aspects a great choice is with some of the changes that have happened to snipers. And I'm not so much talking about the aim assist and the zoom effect, but more around how a lot of snipers that had a combination of quick draw and snapshot or really high handling have been sunset. Yes, you have Adored, but that does not have quick draw. It does have snapshot, which is of course very nice, but sometimes people like to switch to their sniper very quickly and go for that quick scope, or stow it very quickly. But not having quick draw or having that lower handling makes that transition very clunky and feel very slow. And so that's why Ophidian, not just in this season and before, I would say Ophidian was a popular choice of snipers, but now even more in this season because of the snipers that have been sunset. Running Ophidian with something like Cloud Strike just makes it feel so much more crispy. Of course, you still also get that boost to the reload, making the reload even faster on Cloud Strike or a weapon like Adored. And so it just really helps the feel of those weapons improve tremendously. But overall, I'd say for Ophidian Aspects, the reason you're seeing a huge rise in their usage and the amount of people recommending them is because of the downsides of 120 and some of the downsides of our current snipers that are available to us. Ophidian Aspects helps you overcome all of these things, and especially with all the benefits you have now of running a 120 with that increased range, the amount of damage boosting perks that are in the game that can cause you to 2-tap, it really just is important to have a 120. And even if we're talking about sniping, those weapons, it's important that they feel very good so we can be as accurate as possible. We don't feel hindered by the reload or the swap speed. We always want our weapon and our loadout to feel as reactive to our inputs as possible. And so Ophidians really help achieve that. So comparing Ophidian Aspect to Transversive Steps or even Karnstein Armless, depending on your playstyle, how do these compare? In the past, I've always said that Transversive Steps are by far my favorite, what I think are the best exotic for Warlock. And honestly, especially in this current season, obviously with sandbox changes, this, my opinion could change on this, but right now in the current sandbox, I feel like it's kind of swayed towards Ophidian Aspect. And again, because of the things I mentioned, because of the downsides of 120 and our current snipers, how they improve their overall, the feel of your overall weapon loadout, it's very critical to have that boost to handling and boost to reload speed to overcome that lower magazine size and the poor handling of 120s, which are currently meta when it comes to hand cannons. Versus with Transversive Steps, it's hard to debate how much better Transversive Steps make the movement on Warlock feel. And for some people, because they hate the Warlock movement so much, not wearing Transversive Steps is really a game breaker for them. And so it's really important that you have to decide what's more important to you, having those Transversive Steps and sacrificing the handling overall feel of your weapons for that improved movement, if that you feel like that affects your game more, or do you want all your weapons to feel absolutely incredible, super responsive, and super snappy? But for me, I have to say that I'll probably be using Ophidian Aspects a lot more, and the reason is because I've kind of learned to adapt to not having my Transversive Steps. I'll be totally transparent that in the past, and even up until recently, I very much crutch or rely on my Transversive Steps almost too much because I get so used to that movement, the increased sprint speed, the better slide distance, and even the reload, automatic reload you get on Transversive. But honestly, with the boost of reloading you get from using Ophidian Aspect and how you can even stack that with another reloader. I kind of feel like it matches with Transversive for the fact that with Transversive, it feels like you have to sprint for a decent amount of time to even get that reload to proc, and sometimes almost too long. Versus with Ophidian, it's kind of back in my control. I'm not waiting for this perk to proc. I could just reload, and it's going to be a very fast reload on top of all the other benefits that I mentioned. But at the same time, I also understand if someone is in love with Transversive Steps, they never want to take them off, because to be honest, I will probably still use them very frequently, but I'm not going to use them, lean on them maybe as heavily as I did in the past, because of how much the Ophidian Aspects benefit us as Warlocks in this current meta. Let me know in the comments down below, between Ophidian Aspect and Transversive Steps, what are you guys choosing as your exotic choice for your Warlock? But with that, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, as they are all free ways to support me, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.